everybody. Straw hats are cool here. Welcome to the channel. This is going to be my first video. This is going to be our round 4 locals finals. We've got myself piloting the Lucci deck and my opponent over there with the Katakuri. Um, this is a interesting matchup for Lucci. Personally, I feel like it can be pretty 50-50 depending on how things go, but it is definitely a little sketchy and one that a lot of people think is unfavorable for Lucci. So my opponent did win the die roll, so they're going to be going second, which kind of stinks for me, as my deck also prefers to go second, but we know that yellow deck also wants to be going second to be hitting that 10 cost Charlotte Linlin on curve. I'm going to be starting off with a Spandam there, grabbing a Kumadori, trashing 2 Sakazukis. Opponent is going to be starting with their own searcher, Charlotte Pudding, looking at the top 4, and it looks like they're going to be grabbing a Cracker. So, Cracker, phenomenal card, a little scary. But we do have lots of removal options in black, so hopefully we're able to deal with it. Start by swinging 5. My opponent does take this one, and then we're going to play a Fukuro. It's just kind of a sticky blocker that my opponent can't deal with. My opponent is starting by putting 1 Dawn on leader and looking at the top card of their life, and they choose to leave it there. Katakuri kind of similar to Zoro in that usually they're going to be putting 1 Dawn on their leader to abuse that leader effect, pumping up to 7 every turn. Great number to be swinging as it forces 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. So I'm going to be starting with another 5k swing at my opponent's life. Looks like they are going to counter out of this one. I'm going to play a Bluno before passing over to my opponent. Was quite fortunate that I hit that Bluno off of life, as I didn't really have any good turn 3 plays before that. Okay, let's go over to my opponent. I'm going to be swinging 6 with the Caro Sparrow. Probably going to counter out of that one. Yeah, dropping a Suru there. Again, putting 1 Dawn on leader. This time my opponent's going to look at my top life and choose to put it to the bottom of my life. Uh, I think I am going to take this one. Don't want to drop 2 cards too early. I believe it was an air door that I got off life, but nothing in my trash worth bringing back right now. Opponent passing it back over to me. It's going to be our 7 Dawn turn. I think we're going to start here, if I remember correctly, by attacking the Paro Sparrow with our leader. We will see. Sparrow, it's a bit of an annoying card. It's a 5k body that can always attack, and it does still get value when it dies, being able to search the top 5 or top 3 cards of their deck for a big mom type card, which oftentimes is just getting them closer to that 10 cost Charlotte Linlin that we don't want to see. And then we're going to be putting 1 Dawn on our Bluno to attack for 7. Opponent will probably take this one. Again, we don't generally like to drop our hand too early. Gonna drop a Sakazuki, trashing an air door to kill a Cracker. And right now I'm feeling pretty good as I have a solid board present, and I've been able to control my opponent's board pretty well. They're going to their 8 Dawn turn, and they're swinging with 5 with their leader, which means we probably got the 8 cost Katakuri coming down to deal with something on my board. And yep, sure enough, there he is. Gonna put the Bluno on the bottom, it looks like. Or maybe, nope, going to the top. All right. Now, going into my 9 Dawn turn here, and I do believe I have an Isho, and my opponent has exactly 6 cards in hand, so we're going to be dropping that Isho to rip 2 cards out of their hand, hoping to get those top end cards that don't want to see. And we do end up getting 2 phenomenal hits for us, hitting the 10 cost Charlotte Linlin and another 8 drop Katakuri. Leaves my opponent with 4 cards in hand. Probably gonna put 1 Dawn on leader, swing 6. Opponent will probably counter with 2k. Then we'll swing 7 with Sakazuki before passing over to our opponent. They reveal their 5k counter off of life, but do not opt to use the trigger to recover. Is a bit pricey, especially considering I've already ripped 2 cards out of their hand. Gonna start with a 9k swing, I believe, at the Sakazuki. I do think I'm gonna block with the Fukuro on this one, force them to commit more Dawn to trying to get rid of that Sakazuki, and keeping my life healthy. 4-2 right now after being hit with the Katakuri, so I'm not feeling too bad again. I have a pretty strong board presence compared to my opponent. Looks like they're going to be putting 5 Dawn on leader, swinging for 11 at the Sakazuki, which I'm going to let go, and now moving that blue note to the bottom. I believe my opponent was hoping they would be able to rip the Bluno off the top by playing the 10 cost, but my Isha was able to rip the Lin out of their hands, so they're no longer able to do that. Here on my 10 Dawn turn, I do take a minute to kind of think things out and sequence what I'm going to do, trying to clear my opponent's board even further just to solidify my board advantage. So I believe what I end up doing here is putting 1 Dawn on my leader after counting things out and starting with a 6k swing at my opponent's leader. Still thinking about what I'm going to do, and here I am, really just making sure I've got the Dawn to do what I want to do. So yep, we put 1 Dawn on our leader, swinging for 6. Opponent drops a 2k counter for that one. We're going to swing 10 at my opponent's life. We do know they have the 5k counter in hand, so even with that, it still does force 2 cards out of hand to get to that 11k. So they do opt to use their event and another card from hand to get out of that one. Now here, in conjunction with the -3 cost to my opponent's board with the Isho, I've dropped a Suru to reduce the Katakuri down to 3, and then play a Kaku to KO the Katakuri. I put a Fukuro and an air door back in. In hindsight, I probably should have instead put the Kumadori in the air door back in. Not that it would have made much of a difference, but because I no longer have the Bluno on board, there is the possibility that there is another air door in my life, and being able to spawn the Fukuro off the trigger is always good, and it's still a target if I was to get another Bluno on the board. So if I was able to go back, I probably would have returned the Kumadori instead of the Fugaro for that reason. So my opponent here is going to be putting 3 Dawn on their leader. With their leader effect, that's going to be a 9k swing. I believe they're swinging at my Isho, maybe just trying to get a card out of my hand. I think, if I recall, they were debating attacking Isho or life. Personally, I probably would just be going for life here. We're already pretty far behind, and all it takes is a 1k counter. So, yep, they were attacking the Isho, and I do just drop a Kumadori for that. Gonna be spending 4 Dawn to play Cracker, and leaving 2 Dawn up for that 5k event counter. Don't quite remember the name of that one. Sovereignty, I think. But don't quote me on that. So, untapping here, I have a really strong board. I do believe I do try and go for game here, so we're going to swing 7 with a Kaku. Opponent takes that one. 1 Dawn on Isho for another 10. Again, knowing they have a sovereignty, they are still going to need to drop 2 cards if they want to counter out of this one, and sure enough, they do. My opponent's only got 1 card in hand now. I do make a risky play here. I swing 8 with my leader, and we know this one's going to go through. But then I drop a Kaku to KO the Cracker because of the -3 provided by Isho. And then I do pitch the rest of my hand to restand my leader and swing. A little risky because now I've got no cards in hand, but my opponent didn't have the counter out. They were only able to match at 8, and I was still feeling pretty comfortable because I had a big board. My opponent didn't really have much, and even with no cards in hand, I was pretty confident that I would be able to win on the following turn. So that's all I got for this. If you enjoyed, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I'm hoping to be getting videos out on a somewhat regular basis, but still learning the ins and outs of editing and whatnot. So we'll see how it goes. But with that, I thank you for watching.